lived here my whole life. I've never been to this park before. Wanted to come explore it and talk about the biography for Timothy Keller. I think he's a very interesting person. The fact that he believed in theistic evolution kind of makes sense in listening to his biography, because he was educated in a non-Christian, his 4-year degree, and but it does seem that he synthesized, he put together the opinions of other people. And I'm listening to, at the end of the book, it's got some of his messages and sermons, and he just brings up Bonhoeffer. And that easy believism is what made it possible for people to allow Hitler to come into power, that for Nazism to happen. That they've checked off the box, that they're saved, but there's no change. And so just in the middle of this talk, gives the credit to Bonhoeffer and the cost of discipleship. But he's having it, but it's not just him quoting Bonhoeffer. He's actually thought about it, and it's neat. And that is his ministry, who he was. That he read. At one point in the book, it says that the books that he'd check out from the library were books that hadn't been checked out for 100 years. And he was doing research and doing reading that nobody else was doing, and he could make points that nobody else could make. A very big deal that he is on the 700 Club and maybe Jerry Falwell after 9/11. He's in New York, and it's said that they said that America was getting what they deserved, or New York was getting what they deserved, and so the 700 Club comes to film a service or something, and he chases them out and says, "Don't come back," because he says, "How do you know that you're pleasing? How do you know that you're pleasing God? Do you know that you're pleasing God because things are going well?" And he said, "No." He said, "You read the Bible. Are you loving your neighbor? If you're loving your neighbor, then you're pleasing God. It's not going well or not." And so he really rejected the idea that New York or the U.S. was being punished with 9/11. He says Christians thrived in Rome because when plagues came, pagans would leave town and leave those who were sick with the plague to die, and they needed care. They needed care, and their chances of surviving were much better when they had care. And so Christians who believed that they had a better life available believed that it was part of their faith to stay and care for those who were ill. And in doing so, their people were more likely to survive because they had care. And those that were pagan, that were left by their tribe, their group, were likely to convert to Christianity when they'd been saved physically by Christians who stayed in Rome. And so he correlates that idea to New York, that we need to stay in New York City, and things may get harder in New York City, but we need to be light and salt and show that we're going to continue caring about our city, even if it does get harder. And he said people came to New York City, were coming to New York City so they could get ahead in their careers, and so they could make a bunch of money. And he said, so now if things get harder, and they love being in New York. He said, how do you love it now? In the book, it says literally there was an odor in the air, and just a very, very difficult time. And his sticking up for the city and ministry during that time helped bring him to bring a lot of attention to his ministry. I listened to his book. I've got a big review about his book on Center Church, and so just the big idea with Keller is that he often takes two opinions and he goes and he claims that he's split in the middle, that he's going to not take either side, but he's going to take the middle. And that seems to be the principle behind Center Church. And that's what he talks about on the gospel. On one side it's legalism, and on the other side it's easy believism, maybe, or something along those lines. And he tries to do the same thing with politics, which makes it difficult for me, but it's still good to listen to and understand where he is, where other people on this stuff are. But maybe if I show some of the busy street back there, I have a better shot at guessing where I am. Of the three people that watch the video, you probably won't be. I've never been here in my life, and I've lived in the area for my whole life. But spectacular book. Todd and I thought that it was helpful to us that he wasn't perfect, that he was kind of a bad administrator, and that he really needed the help of the executive pastor that came along and future executive pastors. I like how much his wife is a help to him, and how he's willing to take advice from his wife, or even rebuke, as it might be, and how she's real in her theology and her to help with the ministry and with how things are going on. I like how they don't take credit for what happens with Redeemer Presbyterian Church. I think that's the name of it. The way to have a successful ministry, they said, is to show up 1 month before God is about to do something great. And that was good. It seems like a big who he is that he listens. He listens. He earns the right to talk because he listens. He'd have gab fests after youth group meetings, and he put time and effort into listening to what other people said. I'm sure that there's more. I'm going to pause for a second, see if I can gather my thoughts. So there's this guy Kuyper that he gives credit to, and Kuyper, best I can understand, was saying, hey, you should not just separate yourself from the world so much that you allow the government to do whatever that they want, and that is again a blame for Nazism. That the Lutheran idea was what the government does is what the government does, and what the church does is what the church does, and it's two totally separate and different things. They don't go together. And so he gives credit to Kuyper, and I think the idea is that you have to the world see you living out Christianity in the culture. I think that's what he would say, culture. I want to say in the trades and in the work. And you have to see, our children need to see Christianity lived out in the family. And so he just said, you have to proclaim the gospel. That the idea of saying that you proclaim the gospel always, and when necessary use words, he says that shows you don't understand what the gospel is. It is a proclamation. You proclaim the gospel, but you can't be so set apart from the world, that they don't get to see faith lived out in action. And I think that, again, that's the idea of the Roman culture. I made the mistake of saying one time that the Holy Roman Empire couldn't keep Jesus in the tomb, and that's funny because they weren't holy yet, for sure. So they need to see Christianity in the culture. Keller is famous for saying that the diaconate should have a real ministry to the poor. And after 9/11, they brought in a lot of money, and fortunately, it was part of their ministry model that they wanted to help the poor, and that was Christianity working itself out in the culture. And I guess he's got books about that and talking about having a diaconate focused on helping the poor, helping society and culture as a whole. Thanks for watching.